and remember also, if we should need to adjourn for any reason, again, to turn your microphones off, as the live streaming will likely continue. I'm going to request that the live stream now commence. Okay, so good evening, councillors, officers and community members in attendance tonight. I also welcome Councillor Villela, who is joining us online. Hello. And any members of the public who are attending online or live streaming tonight's meeting. My name is Councillor Christina Laris. I'm the Mayor of Darebin City Council and the Chairperson of tonight's meeting. It's my pleasure to welcome you all to tonight's Planning Committee meeting, and I declare the meeting open at 6:31 p.m. The meeting is being live streamed and recording will be available on the Council website as soon as possible after the meeting. So I'd like to start by acknowledging that we are on the lands of the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people, who are the traditional owners of this land. I recognise their enduring connection to land, waters and culture, and pay my respects to elders past and present. I'd like to welcome and acknowledge all councillors, our executive leadership team and officers joining us here this evening. We don't have any apologies tonight. I do, however, at this point just need to ask for any conflicts, Oh, I've got a weird echo happening. Okay, we'll continue on. I'm asking now about disclosures of interest. So if any councillor or any relevant staff member has a conflict of interest in relation to a matter on the agenda tonight, I need you to disclose that now and also immediately prior to the item. Councillor Jelly?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mayor. I have a general conflict of interest to declare at item 5.2.
And yet, and the nature of the conflict.
Oh, so my apologies, Mayor. It's a general conflict of interest due to a personal relationship with a work colleague.
Okay, no worries. And Councillor Sangster.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor, I'd like to disclose a general conflict of interest in the matter of agenda item 5.2 due to the proximity of my home residence to the potential development site.
Okay, thank you. And for anyone else, if during the meeting you realise that a conflict has arisen for you, please just immediately let me know. Councillors, the first item is the minutes from the last meeting. This was on the 8th of September 2025. So I am looking for someone to move the adoption of those minutes. Councillor Jelly, seconder, Councillor Arturi. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Okay. So that's Councillor Arturi, Councillor Boglis, Councillor Dimitriadis, Councillor Jelly, Councillor O'Brien, Councillor Salkos and Councillor Olaris. All those against? No. And abstain, I presume, for Councillor Sangster, who was not at the meeting. So thank you. At the start of these meetings, we always need to just run through councillors' OC health and safety responsibilities, which really is to ensure that everyone attending tonight's meeting, whether that be in person or online, feels safe both physically and emotionally. So fantastic to have a few people here this evening in the gallery. I'd like to remind everyone in attendance that to be respectful of one another, as outlined in our governance rules. Please also note the following. So members of the gallery, we really do ask that you remain silent at all times. except if you're coming up to speak at the lectern. So if you've been called up to speak, then that's the time. Councillors and members of the gallery, addressing the meeting must be done in a courteous, respectful manner, and direction must be taken from the chairperson whenever called on to do so. Anyone attending the meeting must not use any offensive, indecent, insulting or objectionable words, including words that are racist, sexist or homophobic. And if anyone engages any conduct that is improper or disorderly, I may direct that person to cease their conduct, and you must comply with that direction. So we will move right on. So firstly, just councillors, I will be permitting questions of officers prior to the commencement of debate on each item. If I think sufficient questioning has occurred, I will exercise my right under the governance rules to limit questions and ask the debate to commence. But before we continue, can I please request that your microphones remain off unless you're speaking? Okay, so the first item, item 5.1, is the planning application. I won't read out its number, but it's 323 High Street, Northcote. So first up, we'll get the officers to please give us a brief presentation on this item.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, councillors. The matter being considered today concerns a proposal to amend a permit that was issued on 18th of June 2001 for buildings and works in association with redevelopment of Northcote Arcade, erection of advertising signs, waiving of car parking requirements, and use of the land for a shop, landscaping, gardening supplies, and a food and drink premises. This application seeks to amend this existing permit to modify the permit preamble, permit conditions, and endorsed plans through alterations to the front and rear facade of the existing building to enable a McDonald's convenience restaurant to operate from the premises. The subject site is zoned Commercial 1 zone and is affected by the Design and Development Overlay, Schedule 14, and the Development Contribution Plan Overlay. 110 objections and 3 petitions were received against the application on the key grounds of adverse impacts of a convenience restaurant on the cultural identity and character of the surrounding area, economic and social impacts of a convenience restaurant on surrounding businesses and the surrounding area, public health and community wellbeing concerns associated with the operation of a convenience restaurant, adverse amenity impacts on surrounding businesses and residential areas, waste and environmental impacts associated with the operation of a convenience restaurant, and traffic congestion and car parking availability concerns. Under the Commercial 1 zone, planning permission is not required to use the premises for the purposes of a convenience restaurant, and no permission is required under the Darebin planning scheme for car parking or the proposed business identification signage. The planning merits of this application relate solely to the external buildings and works to the existing building. Accordingly, there is no scope to consider any impacts associated with the operation of a convenience restaurant on the surrounding area and car parking or signage impacts under the Darebin planning scheme. The proposal was referred to Council's Sustainable Transport Unit, Urban Design Unit and Operations and Waste Unit, who have all supported the application in relation to traffic impacts, design of the external buildings and works, and waste management. The proposed modifications to the existing building will significantly improve the currently deteriorated condition and will ensure that the building adds to the vibrancy of the surrounding area within the Northcote Activity Centre. The proposal for a convenience restaurant in Northcote Activity Centre will add to the mixture of uses in the centre and will contribute to the local economy through the provision of additional employment opportunities and the diversification of uses in the commercial precinct. The buildings and works to the facade of the existing building provide a simplified design that is consistent with other surrounding commercial buildings, aligns with the objectives of the Commercial 1 zone and the Design and Development Overlay, and will ensure that the building presents as a positive addition to the streetscape and surrounding area. Accordingly, it is recommended to support the proposal and issue a notice of decision to grant an amended planning permit subject to conditions.
Councillors, I might just add in a more general sense to Harry's detailed assessment and comments. Planning across Victoria is the combined responsibility of state and local governments. To encourage consistency across municipal boundaries, the Victorian Government standardises planning provisions such as zones so that the uses allowable in one commercial area of one council are also allowable in the next. On this basis, the Commercial 1 zone is the same across Victoria and is applied with the objective to create vibrant mixed-use commercial centres for retail, office, business, entertainment and community uses. To encourage the establishment of those commercial activities, such as restaurants and cafes, particularly in activity centres such as Northcote, the Commercial 1 zone makes these activities as of right and no planning permit is required for these uses. Accordingly, most of this application tonight does not trigger a requirement for a planning permit within the scheme. Again, to reiterate a point earlier made, no permit is required to use the land for a convenience restaurant, no permit is required for the signage proposed, and no permit is required for the car parking provisions. And given the above permit exemptions, the scope of this assessment is very limited. The only matters that trigger a permit and can be considered by council are the minor buildings and works proposed to externally alter the existing premises. So while many of the 110 submissions and 3 petitions have identified issues such as cultural identity and character, economic and social impacts, public health and community wellbeing, all very important issues, and there are many others, these are fundamentally matters that relate, many of these matters relate to the use of the land, which is as of right and does not require a planning permit. They are thus not matters that can be considered as part of this application. Again, the only aspect of the proposal that requires planning permission and the council can consider are the minor buildings and works proposed to the existing premises. And as the proposed modifications to the existing building will significantly improve the currently deteriorated condition, it is recommended that the application be approved subject to conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, does anyone have any questions of the officers? Councillor Jelly.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. What action has council taken to implore the property owner to comply with their obligations to maintain the property and the adjacent walkway?
Thank you for the question, Councillor. Through you, Mayor. Council is very aware of the ongoing issues, particularly in relation to the maintenance of that existing public walkway. There is a Section 173 agreement on the title that does require the property owner to maintain that walkway. And over the years, there has been mistreatment of that walkway. There has been enforcement orders since 2023, where there has been prosecution in the terms of financial implications for the property owner. It has been an ongoing issue. In relation to this application, the permit applicant has sought to make some improvements. It is noted that the existing condition of that walkway is non-compliant with some of the requirements in that Section 173 agreement, particularly in relation to the boarding up of some of that glazing within or on the outlook to it. So as part of this application, that glazing is to be reinstated. There's to be security cameras added, lighting to be added. Further painting is proposed to discourage graffiti. Yes, thank you.
Any further questions of officers? Councillor Selkos.
Thanks, Mayor, and through you. I just want to know if this application was to be rejected this evening, what would the cost to council be if the applicant then took this to VCAT?
Thank you, and through the Mayor. Councillor, this matter would, essentially the nature of the question is somewhat operational and could also prejudice the council's ability to appear before VCAT, but I can give a general answer, and it would be in the order of tens of thousands to represent, adequately defend this decision, a decision to refuse, should council make it, at VCAT.
Any further questions? Okay. If there are no further questions, we will now hear submissions. So, councillors, we've got 9 submitters who will address the Planning Committee tonight. Each submitter will have 3 minutes. And when I call your name, if you come up to the lectern and press the button on the microphone so that you can be properly heard. Okay, so the first one is the applicant, Jonathan Yap. Thank you, Jonathan. You've got 3 minutes.
Good evening, councillors and council officers. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Jonathan Yap and I'm here representing McDonald's Australia. First, I just want to thank the local community for coming along tonight. We understand that proposals such as this often raise questions and concerns, and we genuinely respect that people care deeply about their neighbourhood and its character. Our application, as you've heard, is to repurpose the existing building at 323 High Street, which, as you may know, has been fire damaged and vacant for around 2 years. The use of the site for a McDonald's restaurant is as of right within the Commercial 1 zone, meaning no permit is required for its use. What's before council tonight relates to the building works and design changes. We've kept this proposal modest and efficient. There's no major demolition or new build. Instead, we're reinvesting into this underused site. The design improves, in our opinion, the property's high street frontage, adds landscaping and lighting, and increases safety through 24/7 activity and passive surveillance. Extensive work has gone into assessing the traffic, loading and access. The restaurant generates the need for fewer car parking spaces than the existing permit requires. I understand council's own engineers are satisfied with the loading arrangements and vehicle movements. From a planning perspective, this proposal, we believe, meets the requirements of Darebin planning scheme and achieves an appropriate design and operational outcome. We believe the decision should remain focused on those planning considerations. Beyond the planning framework, we do see local benefit. McDonald's will reinvest in reactivating this particular area of High Street, creating over 100 jobs, local jobs, and contributing to the local economy. 1 in 12 Australians have worked for or with McDonald's at some point. We're proud of that. It's often a first job for young people, and our training programs are recognised nationally. Recently announced, our Archways to Opportunities program now allows employees to earn recognised credits towards university degrees through participating universities. We also take great pride in supporting diversity, inclusivity and long-term career ambitions for our staff. Importantly, every McDonald's contributes to Ronald McDonald House Charities. If this restaurant is approved, it will directly support families from regional Victoria who come to Melbourne where their children need specialist medical attention. We see this as an opportunity not just to open a restaurant run by a local operator, but to restore activity to a neglected building and become part of this North community for the long term. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Toby. The next submitter is... Oh, sorry, thank you, Jonathan. The next submitter is Toby Scott. Toby, would you like to come up to the lectern and just press the microphone on?
Good evening, councillors. My name is Toby Scott and I am speaking on behalf of the concerned members of Greater Northcote who have signed the petition opposing the proposed McDonald's on High Street. Foremost, I'm not here to oppose business or growth, but I am here to ensure that any developments support Northcote's safety, amenity and livability. I've lived in Northcote for 6 years and spent most of this time across many of its attractive late-night hospitality venues for my employment. Northcote has been good to me, so I am here tonight to do what I can do to be good to Northcote. The elephant in the room, so to speak, is that this gigantic, over-commercialised, unwelcome McPlastic conglomerate would not operate harmoniously within our suburb's identity and iconic individuality. I will not be focusing on this factor as I believe that this is an obvious one and that there are other equivocally important matters at hand tonight. This proposal raises several serious practical concerns, and these are what I wish to talk about. Firstly, public safety and amenity. High Street already experiences heavy late-night foot traffic, and adding a 24-hour fast food outlet would inevitably draw loud, intoxicated crowds to it like moths to a greasy neon red and yellow flame. This will undoubtedly bring with it complaints from local residents targeted at the neighbouring venues, well within their liquor licence regulations from which they have just egressed, not the 24/7 fast food chain in which they will loudly loiter out the front of. Not to mention the safety risks that arise once they leave security-staffed premises. Who will be managing those impacts? Will McDonald's be funding additional police presence or qualified security? For anyone that does not think this an issue, I urge you to order a Big Mac from Brunswick's Berkeley Square store anytime after 11 p.m. and tell me how safe you feel. Secondly, traffic and congestion. High Street and the Arthurton Road car park are already in demand and under pressure. A high-volume fast food restaurant will attract private vehicles and a constant stream of Uber Eats and delivery drivers. Where are these drivers going to go? The current proposed location simply does not facilitate the infrastructure to accommodate this demand safely. Thirdly, litter and waste. Fast food outlets generate significant takeaway waste, especially late at night. I counted 16 recycling bins along High Street yesterday on my Sunday morning stroll, and I have photographic evidence that a quarter of them were overflowing with Saturday night's rubbish. And it's no secret which red and yellow packaging turns up most often. A McDonald's here would only worsen the problem, undermining local efforts to keep the strip clean and vibrant. It's also worth noting that this site sits exactly equidistant between the Bell Street and Clifton Hill McDonald's. What's the need for one in Northcote? Finally, I'd like to remind Council of that Ratio Consultant's own planning director who says that good planning should strive for positive outcomes that benefit the community. With well over 11,000 signatures and counting opposing this proposal, it's clear that this development fails that test. I urge Council to reject this application in favour of something that supports the safety, amenity and identity of our Northcote community. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next submitter is attending virtually. Do we have Nicholas Murphy online? We do?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
We can't
Hi,
see you,
councillors.
Nicholas. Are you?
Thank you very much. Thanks for allowing the opportunity to present here today. First and foremost, the gentleman at the beginning from the council referred to the economic benefits of the proposal as a reason to support the application, which is clearly not something that the Darebin Council appears to have any regard for based on their rejection of the concerns relating to negative economic impacts to local businesses. I think that was a rather misleading statement to be made. Secondly, the community stress and mental health impacts. On page 21 of the planning report, it states there is no evidence or precedent in decision-making that would allow the council to determine that the proposal would result in adverse mental health impacts to surrounding property owners. The council's received 110 formal objections and 3 petitions containing over 11,000 signatures. This is an extraordinary level of direct community engagement and opposition for a single planning matter. Such a response in itself is evidence of the significant community concern, anxiety and distress about the proposal. The third statement I'd like to make is regarding the misleading comparison of the patron capacity and the transient nature of McDonald's. Page 28 of the report argues that the proposed McDonald's will have a significantly reduced maximum patron number of 112 seats compared to the previous 252, and therefore would likely result in a minimisation of potential traffic impacts in the surrounding area. As we all know, unlike a traditional cafe or restaurant, McDonald's operates on a fast food high turnover model. Patrons would typically stay for a much shorter period of time, just for a few minutes, for a quick takeaway meal, compared to longer times of a sit-down restaurant. This would mean that the number of seats is lower, but the total number of individual customers visiting the site would be significantly higher on a daily basis. My fourth point is around the vehicle delivery path assessment and the lack of clarity and missing data. On page 21 and 22 of the report, the council states that the swept path diagrams of vehicles utilising car spaces and trucks undertaking deliveries and waste collection comply with all relevant Australian standards. However, earlier in the report, it's noted that additional details will also be required in relation to the sizes of the delivery trucks and the frequencies of the deliveries. My question to the council is, what vehicle size was this swept path assessment actually based on? The report admits that the details of the delivery vehicle size and the frequencies were still outstanding at the time of the assessment. So if they've not received those specifications, then what's been provided is potentially misleading. My fifth point is around public health and community wellbeing. On page 23 of the report, it says that the planning scheme does not allow the council to consider the type of food or the health impacts. While the direct refusal on health grounds is not possible, the planning scheme does require consideration of community wellbeing under the environmental risks and amenity section.
You need to wind up, David, respectfully. Nicholas?
Thank you, it's Nick, yes. I'll leave it there, but ultimately my final point is around that while the direct refusal on health grounds is not possible, the planning scheme does require consideration of community wellbeing and the impact on the wellbeing that you've heard from me here today and others voiced in the 110
You'll need to finish up.
Statements.
Thank you. Thank you
Is
very
legitimate
much.
planning concern. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. We do have David Tatnall next. David, if you'd like to come up to the lectern, you have 3 minutes. I encourage you, please, to try and finish in the 3-minute time. You've got the clock up
I'll
there.
whomp it in. My name's David Tatnall. I live at number 13 Bastings Street, which is right next to the Annie Dennis Kindergarten. I'm 500 metres from this proposal. Now, I've lived in Bastings Street for just on 30 years, so I'm almost a local. And one thing I've noticed over that 30 years is one thing that's been consistent, that's the increase in rubbish. At the moment, there's a couple of small businesses in High Street that have solely takeaway rubbish, takeaway containers, which ends up as rubbish. Quite often, my rubbish bin has got more rubbish that I've picked up off the street than the household that we actually put in the bin. This applicant is notorious as a rubbish maker. If you go to, if you had have gone down to the Merry Creek on Saturday after the rain, you'll see what I'm talking about. All the little bridges there are covered in rubbish. This comes off the street, comes off High Street, comes off all the streets, gets washed down the Merry Creek and ends up eventually in the Yarra, then goes down to Port Phillip Bay. We can't continue making rubbish like this, and this particular restaurant, as it's called, only has takeaway containers. They actually employ people. If you go to the Clifton Hill one, you'll notice there's no rubbish around the actual business itself. Go to the side streets. That's where the rubbish is. People dump this stuff. Quite often, because of the increase of taxis and Ubers because of High Street, we get a lot of McDonald's rubbish from the Clifton Hill thing dumped in front of our place. It's the nature of that. People just don't regard it as important and they chuck it away. So I would really strongly recommend the council to reject this on the basis of rubbish. We can't keep going business as usual and making rubbish. We have to go forward. I'd also really like the council to do something about making High Street sustainable. There's too much rubbish and there's too many businesses making rubbish. Thanks. Right in time.
Thank you. Okay, our next submitter is Vanessa Walker. Thank you, Vanessa.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillors, can you hear me? Thanks for this opportunity to speak to my objection. I want to mention some of the reasons. I'm not going to get through many of them, and several more have been mentioned by other people, but it's based not only on my experience of living in the area for over 12 years and together with my family, but conversations with friends, neighbours, many of them, and also with many people who face-to-face responded to our petition in the 2 hours that I spent at the petition on High Street. It's also drawing on some evidence, and there's such strong evidence about elsewhere in Australia where objections such as this have been successful. So I am very surprised by the recommendations being put forward by the Planning Department about why this, needs to go through with no objection whatsoever. So some of the points that I raise will be very much in line with what's been objected elsewhere and has been very successful in preventing such a development. I'd also like to point out that one of the distinctions of this is that this is a development on a high street, in a traditional high street situation, which is different from a lot of McDonald's fast food style developments, but it therefore has a greater impact on the local community, on amenity, on safety, and on economic well-being and prosperity of local businesses. So I am hoping that councillors will reject this along these lines. So firstly, we do love this place. It's walkable, it's local lifestyle, it's mix of operators, and for many, many reasons, which, are attested by what's been in the media, by what's been in the voting of the cooler street, etc. What visitors say, according to research about what they want from their main streets, more broadly, is looking at aspirations, is cleanliness, safety and security, parking, walkability, services and amenity and a good retail mix, and lack of graffiti. Well, we might not achieve the last one, but on all of those top 5 issues, this McDonald's proposal is not providing and is in fact having a negative impact on all of those issues, which are to do with livability and quality of life, which is a local government matter. I have no need to go through the specific policies and so forth that relate to this. I'm sure you know them well. So what we don't like about this is, basically also been covered by others, but it's not fitting together with local character. It does have an impact on local businesses that's negative. The 24/7 hour operation is going to have a big impact. The proposal makes no attempt to deal with parking.
Need to start winding up.
Makes no attempt to do with parking, or particularly with the delivery models that are now used for delivery of food and so on. So there's just
Respectfully, you'll need to finish up. Thank you.
So I do hope that you can make this vote against this. Thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa. Oliver Harris, who is a proxy for Chris? No? Okay. Andy Miller? Thank you, Andy.
Mayor, councillors and staff, residents of the City of Darebin strongly object to the development of a 24-hour McDonald's at 323 High Street, Northcote. We tabled 520 objections and are mindful of similar petitions, including over 11,000 signatures online. Over 90% of people we met strongly object to this proposal. McDonald's in Northcote will adversely affect the cultural balance of the street, the coolest street in the world, according to Time Out. Negative impacts on our neighbourhood are as follows. 1, health impacts. Cheap, calorie-dense food contributes to obesity, diabetes, heart disease, particularly where healthy options are limited. 2, local economy. Profits leave the community rather than supporting local business. Independent cafes and takeaways can't compete with corporate pricing and marketing. 3, environmental costs. Single-use packaging, constant deliveries and high energy use increase litter, traffic and emissions. 4, homogenisation. Golden arches everywhere erode local character and identity, replacing distinct food cultures with global uniformity. 5, social effects. 24-hour outlets attract late-night disturbance, reducing neighbourhood amenity and livability. Darebin's Northcote Activity Centre Structure Plan states, and I quote, "The challenge of urban design improvements to Northcote is to capitalise on the eclectic, down-to-earth community and artistic spirit that is valued by the community without homogenising or sterilising the centre so that the very features that are valued by the community are lost. Allowing a business that prioritises convenience and corporate profit over community health, diversity and sustainability disregards community aspiration." The council brief also proposes the deletion of a number of current conditions over the property, which will give carte blanche to McDonald's to operate unfettered, with no requirement to contribute to the community. We also question the demand. There are already 3 McDonald's stores only 8 minutes away from the site. The store will openly cannibalise the economic and social capital built by the Northcote community over many years. If Council needs a precedent to give it courage to reject this cynical corporate proposal, there are many. In the UK, 10 councils have rejected McDonald's applications on the grounds of proximity to schools, health and obesity concerns, congestion, air quality, community amenity, noise and litter. And locally, the City of Sydney rejected proposals in Newtown and Redfern with concerns over congestion, safety and neighbourhood amenity. We ask the Council to hear its community. 323 High Street provides an opportunity to improve our much-loved precinct in keeping with its well-earned reputation. McDonald's is not the opportunity we or our future generations need, want or deserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Next we have Salah Tavakoli Manshadi.
Yes, that's
Thank you.
Salar for short. I'd like to thank the council members for letting me speak today. I won't dwell on the points that was spoken to, but I have a full detailed complaint that highlights a lot of items. I would just like to point to the clause around under Planning Code 5206 around car park and accessible bays. I noticed that it was mentioned that this is just taking over an existing planning permit. However, I would argue that the use is different, as it was mentioned before. High turnaround, fast food restaurant is not the same as what was previously there. According to the interpretations, there's at least 12 car spaces that should be provided, and the clause states that before a new use commences, these car parks should be provided. This will set a pretty bad precedent. Every future planning permit is going to try to hide behind an existing permit to try and not comply. High Street is pretty congested, driving is unsafe, there is a lot of issues with pedestrians crossing. This would just exacerbate that. Furthermore, McDonald's claims that it cares about the community. It's obviously completely negating the need to provide accessible car park. I live with people who require accessible car parks. This will not only reduce the number available to the current members, it would just not provide any further availability. The other item that I wanted to just go through was the contradicting with the planning scheme clause 2205, High Street corridor land use and urban design, which is from the council, and it says that it should minimize negative amenity impacts on the surrounding residential neighborhood. Well, this planning change clearly will have a negative impact on amenity, as discussed. Waste will become a problem, antisocial behavior. We know that that will be the only 24/7 restaurant available. So after certain hours, there will be congregations of people who will lead eventually to antisocial behavior. There's been a number of violent activities that have been centered around food courts around Victoria and Australia. This will certainly not be an exception to that. Additionally, I would like to reiterate the issue with healthy food not being provided. There's a number of schools and other locations around. Kids will be using this restaurant quite in anger, and it will result in issues like obesity and other health concerns that go with that. The rest of the points I had were already covered by the other members, other speakers, so I won't go through them, but I would strongly recommend that this application is rejected. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Tim Dow?
Hello. Hi, my name's Tim. I live and have run a business in Thornbury for the last 10 years. I submitted an objection to this application, and I'm here to address you on some items that you can assess as part of this application process. But first, before I get to those points, I just want to acknowledge that while we're limited to discussing planning technicalities tonight, as pointed out by the planning team, 110 objections from community members and 3 petitions tell a bit of a different story. One that planning bodies in Sydney have been listening to. In recent months, McDonald's applications have been rejected or withdrawn in 4 suburbs across Sydney. We're talking about Newtown, Crow's Nest, Redfern, to list some. All of these have raised similar community objections to those that have been raised here throughout the 110 objections and 3 petitions. I hesitate to believe that Sydney councils can do anything better than us here in Darebin, yet they found a way to say no. We should be asking ourselves, what did they see that we cannot? What did they do that we are not? In terms of actionable concerns for you to assess as part of this application, I request that you guys reject the request to change the functional use to a convenience restaurant. As raised previously by other speakers, the high street is one of the best in the world, and we should be aiming to build a sense of belonging, local uniqueness that results in people lingering longer. That's not convenience. Council has the discretion to reject based on that amendment request. I request that we reject the request to delete conditions 2 and 5. They relate to the 24-hour operation, as well as changes to access to the public walkway, both of which, removal of those strip away critical amenity protections for our community. These conditions exist for a reason, and I think Council has the discretion to retain them. I also request that you reject the application based on the submitted waste and loading management plans. They've been alluded to by a previous speaker. I think there's safety hazards for the nearby school that will be caused during the times for delivery and waste pickup, as that's denoted for peak times as well as school drop-off times. I also request that you reject the application based on the impacts of a 24-hour operation, as there's no works that adequately mitigate the noise, lighting, or patron management impacts of this development application. I urge Council to either refuse the application outright or at a minimum maintain the existing use as well as the hours and the walkway closure conditions. If Sydney can stand up for their communities, surely Darebin can do the same and probably do it better. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim. Okay, is there anyone else in attendance who registered to make a submission and whose name I haven't called? You registered a submission? Yeah? What, can you just call out your name? Okay, go ahead. We don't have you registered, but...
Thank you, Mayor and councillors. Andrew Mansfield on behalf of the Northcote Business Association. We have concerns that the approval of this application will be done without due consideration of issues that just haven't been clarified in the applicant's submission. Many of those have been spoken on. The association is seeking to better understand how the applicant will deal with these amenity issues within the precinct that would likely arise from the granting of the application. Being in business myself, I also understand that the nature of these meetings are to imply conditions where it isn't possible under your planning rules to deny an application completely. We believe it's practical to consider how the applicant intends to deal with rubbish, how the applicant intends to deal with security issues. It is the place of council to look at whether or not a stance can be made to imply conditions if an outright blocking of this isn't possible. We don't believe that the applicant has specified sufficiently how they intend to deal with the inherent nature of modern fast food delivery. The car parking situation as it relates to patrons toing and froing from the restaurant doesn't address the fact that our footpaths will be covered in Uber delivery bikes. There will be implications to the way that the footpath and the high street work once that kicks off. If we do not get conditions in, if you are unable to outright deny the application, we will never be able to retrospectively see those things. We also want to understand how the granting of this application fits in with your ongoing precinct planning. I know that there is, underpinning in the Darebin Department of Economic Development consultancy report delivered by Janine Associates in July 2025 speaks to the official precinct being a diverse and carefully planned precinct, and that a strategy needs to be developed and delivered not just to the stakeholders and residents, but also to agents and developers to profile the next 5 years of the strip and to encourage investment of new offerings. I would question whether or not this is the offering that we're looking to accept. If we do go down this road, we would be changing the fundamental nature of this business activity centre. Does the granting of this application align with the goals for additional precinct investment? Is the application consistent with the neighbourhood character of High Street, which is characterised by independent, small, creative businesses that have worked long and hard to create the culture within that strip? Our belief is the granting of this application without further consideration or controls would be detrimental to the precinct's amenity and long-term growth. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew, and right on time. Thank you to all of our submitters. Obviously something that the committee feels very passionate about. Yeah, thank you for coming in. We will I will now ask councillors whether we have a motion to be put forward. Councillor O'Brien.
Yes, Mayor, I have a motion to put forward and would like to do so while remaining seated because I'm feeling a bit unwell. Thank you.
That's fine, of course.
Thank you.
That's the right one. Do we need to just slowly scroll up a bit so people can have a look? Okay. Do we have a seconder for the motion? And that's Councillor Demetriadis.
Yeah, if we can continue to scroll.
Okay. I think that's kind of it. Sorry, that's a lot to take in for those reading it on the screen. Would the mover like to speak to the motion, please?
Yes, Mayor, I would like to just keep my microphone on. It's unusual sitting down. Okay, so we've heard from the community, I think, pretty loud and clear, and a lot of what I want to say has been covered, and I think this shows that the community has been very active and has gotten itself very well across these issues. But from my perspective, I'm putting this motion to refuse forward because I believe there are several sound planning, environmental and community-based reasons why the application should not be supported. I want to begin by acknowledging that while the proposal does meet many of the technical planning provisions and has been assessed accordingly by our officers, those provisions are narrow. They leave little room to consider the broader impacts that matter deeply to this council and our community. Things like sustainability, local character and neighbourhood amenity. From a planning perspective, I believe that the proposal has inconsistencies with the objectives of the Darebin planning scheme and the Northcote Activity Centre framework. Clause 11.03 and our activity centre strategy clearly directs us to discourage development that undermines the retail mix and capacity of our activity centres. A new fast food outlet of this nature could displace and economically disadvantage independent cafes, restaurants and takeaway businesses, the very beating heart of Northcote's successful, diverse and community-based economy. Within the Northcote Activity Centre policy also seeks to minimise amenity impacts from late night uses and to nurture the emerging creative precinct through small and adaptive local business. This proposal sits at odds with those aims, both in character and in operation. Under clause 34.101, the use of land must not detrimentally affect the amenity of the neighbourhood. Yet this development would create impacts through noise, light, odour, waste, and the constant movement of delivery vehicles. The proposed extended 24-hour operations in particular poses conflict with nearby residences. Clause 65.01 also requires us to consider the effect on environment, human health and amenity, as well as the adequacy of local traffic arrangements. I do not believe the application demonstrates how the site can safely accommodate the high turnover of short-stay vehicles and delivery riders inherent in modern fast food operations. And we know this is already a challenge, with delivery bikes parking on footpaths, blocking access for pedestrians, prams and mobility users, compromising safety for our locals. Environmentally, the proposal runs counter to our climate and sustainability goals. Fast food supply chains are among the most carbon intensive in the global food system, heavily reliant on beef and dairy production that drive methane emissions and deforestation. These outlets also generate significant packaging waste and are energy intensive to operate. Supporting a high waste, high emission model directly undermines our climate emergency commitments and our efforts to strengthen sustainable communities. So, in summary, I believe this fails to meet the needs of our community for all of the reasons presented by the many people here tonight, and I believe that Council should refuse the planning permit.
Thank you, Councillor O'Brien. Does the seconder wish to speak?
I'll reserve my right, thanks, Mayor.
Are there any other speakers? Councillor Jelly?
Thank you, Mayor. In supporting this motion to reject this planning application, I'm guided by Section 28 of the Local Government Act, which requires us to represent the interests of the municipal community. Those interests are represented in our Darebin, our vision for 2041, which is a community that is equitable, vibrant, healthy and connected. High Street Northcote already embodies this vision with a thriving local economy of independent businesses and also some charity shops. As McDonald's at this location on High Street would undermine this ecosystem. The Darebin planning scheme provides clear guidance. It states as one of its objectives, and I quote, to develop the Northcote Activity Centre as a regional arts, entertainment and culture node. Now, some people might take the view that pursuing the arts means a life working in part-time in hospitality to pay for the necessities of an artist's practice, but I have a different vision for the artists in our community. And that is one where they are valued for their cultural contributions to Darebin and in return are sustained by the community. Some of the stated roles of the Northcote Activity Centre as per the planning scheme are to, and I quote again, encourage land use and development that provide for a range of visual arts and live music venues to support services to the arts and the design community, and also to encourage convenience retailing around the intersection of High Street and Separation Street/Arthurton Road. This proposal sits well outside of that zone. The Northcote Activity Centre is also supposed to reinforce High Street as the core retail and commercial activity spine by encouraging a variety of businesses, particularly those that offer quality, fresh food and other convenience household items. It is well documented that McDonald's does not represent a quality fresh food offering. And while I won't quote expert research here, there is extensive evidence on the negative impact of fast food proliferation. And it's for this reason that I support Councillor O'Brien's motion and I urge all councillors to reject this application.
Thank you. Do we have anyone who wishes to speak against the motion? Councillor Aturi.
Thank you, Mayor. And I want to thank councillors who've made very passionate contributions so far in this debate, and also those members of the community who've come here this evening and who've been in contact with us about this application. The nature of the concerns raised by these residents and those outlined by previous speakers are indeed important ones. I think, though, we have to remember the question that we're required to answer in this debate. And that is whether we'd be willing to vary an existing permit to allow minor building works on the facade of a building under an existing permit. That is essentially the question. This is very different to whether or not we want a McDonald's in Northcote, which, of course, under the Darebin planning scheme and the, as officers have advised, the common commercial, the commercial one zone across Metro Melbourne, which covers the High Street Activity Centre, a convenience restaurant, which, whether we like it or not, McDonald's falls into that definition, is an as of right use in this zone, meaning that there's no permit required for that particular question. For this reason, whilst I never want to anticipate or predict a court or tribunal decision, finding this application for what is essentially minor works at VCAT will likely be an expensive and fruitless exercise. despite the passionate contributions that we've heard this evening. The other consideration worth mentioning is that going down this path means that we have to go to VCAT and defend our decision, and in the event that we lose, there is potentially a material risk to council that there could be an adverse cost order against us, which makes the exercise even more expensive. I should say that I generally agree with the views that have been put here tonight, and it's kind of ironic that I speak against the motion. But I don't particularly think that it is a good idea to put a Northcote a McDonald's in the middle of Northcote. But on balance, and the planning grounds that we have before us, they are very limited if they exist at all, and that is why I won't be supporting the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Turi. Any other speakers? Councillor Sangster.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. I'm also standing in support of Councillor O'Brien's motion that we do not support the planning application and that we issue a notice of refusal on the grounds listed. As we are all aware, while a new fast food outlet may promise jobs and convenience, the true cost will most likely outweigh the benefits. The potential for this development to impact adversely on local cafes and restaurants, to impact adversely on our local unique culture, to impact adversely on our school children, and to impact adversely on our social and ecological environments are profound. So often developments such as these bring increased litter, as we've heard, from excess packaging and increased traffic congestion. Our community has been very clear, reaching out to councillors and preparing petitions. And while I acknowledge, as has been noted, that under the current state planning, we as a council have limited ability to make changes to applications such as these, this does not mean that we shouldn't try.
Thank you, Councillor Sangster. Any other speakers? Councillor Selkos.
Thanks, Mayor, and I will keep it brief. I'll start by thanking all the submitters here tonight and our team for their work in getting this to us. However, similar to Councillor Turi, I'll be speaking against this motion. While I understand all the concerns raised by residents, the Planning Committee's decision tonight is unfortunately not if we want a McDonald's in Northcote. So what's before us is simply if we are going to approve the building facade works. Earlier we heard from council officers that if we reject this evening, that this could potentially end up in VCAT and cost us thousands of dollars. And councillors, I remind you that earlier this year we did endorse our council plan, which included a 4-year strategic plan, in particular 6.4, which was to deliver responsible and transparent stewardship by managing our community assets, resources and finances well. So I leave it with you. Thank you.
Okay. Are we done? There's the seconder wish to use their right. Yep. Okay. Thank you, Councillor Dimitriadis.
Firstly, I want to thank everyone who came along tonight to make a submission, and to the tens of thousands of people who signed the online and written petitions. I will also not be supporting the McDonald's proposal. As we've heard tonight, this proposal has gained significant community concerns on issues such as safety, local character, neighbourhood amenity, and the viability of small local businesses. This McDonald's will be the first multinational food chain on the Strip, likely paving the way for more of the type. While Northcote Rise as a business association, who we heard from tonight, have spent a lot of money, time and effort to build up the brand of High Street Northcote as a destination precinct made up of unique business offerings, approving this application tonight, councillors, can put that at risk. Furthermore, as we've heard, the site in question is located near local kindergartens and schools, including Northcote Primary and St Joseph's Primary. Annie Dennis also was mentioned. And approving this application is likely to result in increased traffic flow and congestion in the area, as well as increased concerns regarding to the health and environmental impacts from the convenience of fast foods and late night trading outlets. I pose the question to Council. Does Council have a responsibility to push back on proposals that are likely to have a negative impact on the prosperity of the business precinct, as well as on the environment and public amenity of the area? I want to thank the member for Northcote, Kat Theophanous, for advocating on behalf of the Northcote community and speaking to Darebin Council about the proposal. Ms Theophanous has personally stated that she doesn't believe McDonald's is the right fit in the heart of our unique strip. She says High Street Northcote isn't just another shopping strip. It's a cultural icon shaped by decades of creativity and grassroots connection. We are proudly environmentally and socially conscious. A McDonald's risks eroding the character that makes Northcote the vibrant place it is today. So I hope all councillors will join myself, Kat Theophanous.
You need to finish up there, Councillor Demetriadis.
Councillor O'Brien and the other some of the other councillors, as well as the Northcote traders and the wider Northcote community, to oppose the application.
Thank you. Okay. Nothing else, Councillor Villela? No? Okay. We will move to the vote then.
Sorry, Mayor. Do I get a right of reply?
Oh, apologies. Yes, you do. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, so I just want to acknowledge that, we do have some different views in the room on this, around the table probably, but certainly not from most of our community, as we have heard. The work before us from our officers is not being undermined by my putting this refusal up in my mind, but what it does is it's reflecting the narrow considerations that they're required to apply under the zoning. And yes, within those limits, the proposal could be seen to be technically meeting the tests, but I continue to contend that those tests exclude the things that really matter to our community: local character, amenity, safety, and environmental impact. And that's why the motion I have put forward this evening includes asking the CEO to write to the Minister for Planning to highlight how current rules shut out our community voices and local priorities in important decisions like this. Some have pointed to the poor condition of the site as a reason to support this proposal. It's one of the things in the report. But this neglect has gone on for a long time, and I don't believe that it should be rewarded by leasing out to something that is going to increase traffic risks, accessibility, and increasing the noise and litter in our community. And we need to be especially aware of those impacts close to schools, as some people have said already. The costs are also a concern. I understand that for council, we're constantly looking at our costs, and I really do appreciate that consideration, but our role as councillors isn't to make the least risky decision every time. Sometimes it's about making the right one. And the refusal is grounded in broader considerations that mean something for Darebin. And I believe if we don't stand up for these now, we're paving the way to losing High Street Northcote, and I don't want to stand and make that decision. I'm sitting while I'm speaking to it, sorry. But I would just say, yes, to everybody, please consider the broader community considerations. I know it's challenging, but please, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We will now move to the vote. So all those in favour of the motion up on the screen, please raise your hands. Councillor Boglis, Councillor Demetriadis, Councillor Jelly, Councillor O'Brien, Councillor Sangster and Councillor Villela. Those all against, raise your hand. That's Councillor Arturi, Councillor Salkos and Councillor Olaris. So that's carried. Thank you. Okay, so the Planning Committee has decided not to support the application and issue a refusal to grant a planning permit on grounds. The application and objectors will be notified in writing. The applicant can, of course, appeal the decision at VCAT. The process of appeal is subject to timeframes detailed on the documentation. So thank you. We'll now move on to item 5.2, which is the application for the planning permit for 75 Flinders Street, Thornbury. And please feel free to, we'll just wait a moment. I think some of the people who keen to leave at this moment. I understand we have some objectors.
Sorry, request for
Okay, 5-minute adjournment. Thank you. Councillors, can you please take your seats? Okay. We're going to restart. We're discussing the application for the planning permit for 75 Flinders Street, Thornbury. Councillors, thank you. Okay, so we'll get the officers first to make a brief presentation, please.
Mayor, I'd like to declare a general conflict of interest and excuse myself from the meeting. Thank you.
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to disclose a general conflict of interest and excuse myself as well. Thank you.
You need to state the conflict again, sorry, before you...
Yep, my conflict is for agenda item 5.2 is due to the proximity of my home residence to the potential development site.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a general conflict of interest on this matter relating to a personal relationship through work.
Thank you. Okay. Okay. So now we will ask the officers to please give a brief presentation on this matter.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, councillors and those in the galley. The matter being considered today concerns a proposal for the approval of a planning permit application at 75 Flinders Street in Thornbury. The subject land is located along the northern side of Flinders Street, approximately 90 metres east of the intersection with St David Street and 500 metres east of the High Street Activity Centre. The surrounding area has a mixed character with older style unit blocks, including one directly adjoining the site to the west, intermixed with contemporary unit developments and single detached dwellings. In terms of planning control, the site is zoned General Residential Zone Schedule 2, allowing infill development of up to 3 stories or 11 metres in height. 7 dwellings are proposed, with 6 double-storey 3-bedroom townhouses with ground level living and secluded private open space, and 1 2-bedroom townhouse located above the shared car parking area with a first floor living and balcony. 6 on-site car parking spaces are proposed. This represents a reduction of 8 car parking spaces, including a reduction of the 1 visitor space requirement. 12 objections were lodged against the proposal. The key grounds of the objections related to the proposed reduction in the car parking requirement and related congestion along Flinders Street. Other grounds included overdevelopment, visual bulk, overlooking, overshadowing, and overshadowing of solar panels. The proposal has been designed in accordance with the standards and objectives of Clause 55, also known as the Townhouse and Low-Rise Code. The proposal is generally compliant with all standards, with some variations sought to the rear first floor setback to the right-of-way and some technical non-compliance with overlooking and waste management. The proposed car parking arrangement was designed to take advantage of the sealed right-of-way that extends along the subject site's northern boundary for vehicle access, with the existing crossover to Flinders Street proposed to be removed. The waiver of car parking has been considered against the relevant policies and was referred to Council's Transport Unit, who offered no objections to the waiver, subject to condition for a provision of a car share bay. The site is conveniently located near train, tram, bus routes and in proximity to local services, supporting the reduction in the car parking requirement. The visitor waiver requirement was considered appropriate as the existing crossover is proposed to be removed and additional on-street car parking space will become available. Accordingly, it's recommended to support the proposal and issue a notice of decision to grant the permit. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillors, are there any questions of officers? Councillor Dimitriadis.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to ask whether the removal of dwelling 7 means that development would then comply with the certain standards.
Thank you, Councillor. And for you, Mayor, the removal of dwelling 7, if that was to be approved, would result in the development complying with the rear setback that it's seeking a variation. Other compliance will be achieved is overlooking. Currently, there's some overlooking potentially from the proposed first floor balcony, while currently it's partially obscured by the existing shed on the adjoining property. The removal of the dwelling would result in that complete compliance with the standard. I will note that the recent reforms to the planning scheme and the introduction of the Townhouse and Low-Rise Code, bedrooms that would have previously been treated for overlooking, especially on the first floor, is no longer considered as part of overlooking. So therefore, once the removal of dwelling 7, the development will then comply with that standard.
Are there any other questions of officers? Okay. We will now then hear submissions. So we have 6 submitters, councillors, this evening. Each submitter will have 3 minutes to speak. Please do keep to your 3-minute time slot. The first submitter is Sue Zhang, the applicant, who is online. Sue, so you have 3 minutes to speak to the meeting, so please go ahead.
Terrific. Thank you very much to all the councillors and Madam Mayor for the opportunity to address you this evening. You have already heard from the council officer with respect to a general overview of what's been proposed. So I won't repeat any of those again. What I would like to touch on is the site's strategic location being very convenient located with convenient access to train, trams and also buses. Councillors and Madam Mayor, this type of development is not new to Thornbury. There are very similar types of development in terms of building topology, in terms of development density, and in terms of the quantity of car parking space that is sought to be reduced. This is a tried and tested product that has been previously been supported by council officers, by councillors, and they are under development. Since the approval of those existing developments, as the council officer has briefly touched on, in March of this year, the state government has introduced a wide range of reform to the planning control and planning systems within Victoria. The aim of these changes are to give developers and the local community some certainty around what those changes in their neighbourhood may look like. Councillors and Madam Mayor, this proposal has been very well designed to respond to all of those siting and massing requirements. You have heard from the council officers, it complies with the front and side setbacks. In terms of building siting and massing, the only technical non-compliance relates to the rear boundary, which abuts a laneway. Under the decision guidelines, the separation afforded to the site by the rear laneway is something that the decision maker can take into consideration. In this particular instance, we say that dwelling number 7's current location will not have any unreasonable amenity implications for its adjoining neighbours. With respect to overlooking, there is a recommended condition to screen the balcony. My clients do not intend to contest those conditions. In terms of its site setback and in terms of its implications on the adjoining solar panels, there are deemed to comply provisions within Clause 55 nowadays, and this proposal does comply with all of those provisions. One of the key concerns raised by the community does relate to car parking reduction. This is a matter that has been considered by council's traffic engineers. There are no objections from council's traffic engineers with the condition to provide a fee to contribute towards a car share pod.
I need you to wind up now, I'm afraid.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time to address everyone this evening.
Thank you very much, Sue. I appreciate it. Okay. Now we have another 5 submitters, all objectors. So first up, can we have Shane Mollinger? Shane, you've got 3 minutes, and make sure you press the little button so the microphone works. Thank you.
Hello, all the councillors. Thanks. My name's Shane Mollinger, and I'm from 92 Flinders Street, so directly across the road from 75 Flinders Street. So my 2 main objections, I'm not objecting against the build of it, but the objections is the parking and the offset of the Unit 7 right at the back of the building. So, of course, we've got the what was said, the 3 bedrooms and that. So that should be, as you say, 12 car spaces be allowed. 1 extra for the single level townhouse. And I wasn't sure about the visitors. It sounded like there should be 14, so they're asking for 6. I've had advice from a good friend of mine that works in a town planning company, and they deal with all applications for permits for developers. And this developer, or this person, told me that their minimum that they can ask to be reduced from is 1 car park to 0.6. So everything doesn't add up. So I was working on 13 car spaces times 0.06, and that gives you about 8 car spaces. And even with 6 3-bedroom townhouses, that's 12 car parking spaces, plus the visitors, so that's 13, but 12 times the 0.6, which I've been told that's the minimum they can ask for, is 7.2. So they're going for 6, so that's not there. So the only way to have the 6 car spaces, I think, is to have 5 3-bedroom houses. That gives you 10 times the 0.6, and that gives you just 6 car spaces. So Flinders Street, around this area, if the application's approved to have the 7 townhouses with the 6 car spaces, there's no way that Flinders Street in that area can sustain an extra possible 8 plus cars looking for car parking space every night around 6 p.m. As the south side of Flinders Street have mostly single fronted houses, and we've got no driveways. So we all have to park in the street. And then the other one is the offset for the 7th townhouse. I just can't believe that 7th one can go all the way back to the back boundary. So double storey going all the way right back to the double storey all the way back to the back boundary. So I'm not quite sure where they measured their offset back from, but I have heard, I didn't read it properly, but I heard the measurement was started from the centre of the laneway. I'm not quite sure if that's correct, but that's what someone told me.
Okay, Shane,
that they
I'm gonna
measured
have
from
to
there
get
all
you to
the way
wind
back.
it up.
So I'm not objecting against the whole thing, but I think a reduction in the units or something like that to allow for the car parks and spaces.
Thank you, Shane.
So that's what, thank you.
Okay.
So.
Angela Burke. Angela, you've got 3 minutes.
Thanks so
start
much.
Whenever you're ready. Yep.
Thanks for your time today. I've previously provided a detailed written submission highlighting my concerns in the number of areas where this proposal is non-compliant. I can't believe that I have to come here and spend my Monday night talking to you about their tactical non-compliance, when really the point of a planning scheme is to protect and respect the neighbourhood amenity and residents' amenity. I live at 79 Flinders Street, and I will be directly impacted by the proposal, and I have I'm here to reiterate my 3 main concerns that I made in my written submission. The first is the overdevelopment of the site, which results in excessive coverage, minimal permeable land, a built form that dominates the block where required minimum setbacks are not complied with. This fails to respect the neighbourhood character and protect neighbours' amenity. Second, and relatedly, the proposal creates major privacy and overshadowing impacts. The proposed dwelling 7 balcony, its only outdoor space, will look directly into my neighbour's secluded open private space, and beyond that, directly into my living room and bedroom windows. And I find it fascinating that the earlier proponent for the applicant talked about that not having any impact. The overshadowing diagrams show an unacceptable loss of sunlight to neighbouring living areas, gardens and solar panels. Third, this development will cause serious traffic and parking issues. Only 6 car parking spaces are required. That's a 57% shortfall. The traffic report provided with the application erroneously relied on a single midday survey, unrealistic assumptions about car ownership that aren't borne out by your own census data. We already know that bin night is one of the worst nights to find a park on Flinders Street. We have lots of elderly residents who rely on being able to park nearby, and this proposal creates is going to exacerbate all this and lead to local conflicts. The rear laneway access risks have not been fully considered or addressed by the proposal. The laneway is narrow, unlit, unsafe for additional traffic. Vehicle turning conflicts are likely, and impacts on pedestrian and cyclist safety have not been addressed. Thank you for your time and consideration. I hope this helps you to understand the proposed impacts this development will have on my day-to-day life and on my enjoyment of my Thornbury home.
Thank you very much. We have Bayram Kiani up next.
Yeah, hi. Sorry, is the mic on?
You got a green light
so
there.
my name is Darebin. Myself and my wife live at 77 Flinders Street, and I believe that we're probably going to be the most impact. This development is going to destroy our home. I'm not sure if you guys understand that, but my wife has been in tears ever since this proposal has been put up. Not only are these developers greedy, they've gone for 7. They've completely developed this site, okay, and they're talking about technical compliance. Yet they fail in so many areas, like setback. Okay, I'm surprised they didn't ask to build over your alleyway at the back. They've only, out of 14 car pots, they're only providing 6. So they're well short of the number of cars, trying to force cars out into the street. At the moment, we are, on a Monday night when you put out your rubbish bins, everyone is in a fury, trying to find places to put their bins out, trying to find parking, etc. We are constantly in fight with people parking over our driveway, so we can't enter our property, we can't exit our property because there is a shortage. How can they possibly use 12 o'clock on a Tuesday when everybody is at work or out shopping to go past and do their conveyancing on the number of car spots that are available? They should be going there at 6 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night when people want to go to bed and they want to park their cars, and you can't find parking at this point of time. The parking on the street is actually saturated. As Shane's already said, all the cars on the south side of Flinders Street are all single-fronted houses. They have to park on the street. Within 50 metres of the project, there's at least 8 multi-storey dwellings, and they park on the street as well. So all we're doing now is adding another 8. That's how far short they are. They're 8. They don't even get 50%. So there's other issues there too. There's insufficient space for rubbish bins. Not sure if you use that. In the future, in 2027, we won't be having 3 bins. We're going to have 4 bins. They can't even allocate 3 bins for 7 units. So how can they have room to put 4 bins for 7 units? This project must be reduced. It is unsustainable. It's affecting my solar panels. I have a document here which says something different to what the thing says. It's Planning Practice Notice 88, and it says it needs to consider all existing solar panels, whether it's on the roof or on adjacent property. Okay?
I need you to wind up. You're over time now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Kamal Hassi. Thank you, Kamal. 3 minutes.
Hello,
Please try and keep
I'm
short.
actually speaking on behalf of Carmel. I rung through today. My name is Jennifer Green.
What was your name, sorry?
Jennifer Green.
Jennifer Green.
Yep.
Thank you.
So I'm representing Carmel thank you, councillors and Mayor, for letting me speak tonight. I'm representing Carmel, who owns the property at Unit 2, number 73 Flinders Street, which I also live at. We've got serious concerns about the overshadowing of the property with this new build. I'm on the ground floor, and currently, if we don't get a lot of light as it is, direct sunlight coming through, so what we do get, we relish greatly. With the introduction of a 2-storey building, that light is just going to go, and the back of our property is going to be, we're getting no direct sunlight, which is going to have a real mental health impact as well to those that are living there. We're also concerned about the distance between the boundary fence. So there's a 2.1 metre setback plus a 1.2 metre egress. There's going to be a walkway that's along our boundary fence. We have bedrooms along the back. There's going to be impact with lights being constantly on coming through. There's going to be impacts with noise of people coming through. Also bins going up and down the lane, up and down that walkway. So if you're sleeping in the back area, in the back room, that's going to have an impact on us as well. Again, impacting on mental health there's quite a few of us that sleep in the back rooms. We're also concerned about the parking as well. You've got seven units, one of them being a 2-bedroom that they're proposing not to have any parking. Let's be real, that's not going to happen. You're not going to buy a 2-bedroom apartment and not have a car. Where's that car going to park? On the street. The solution to put a car share space, that's all fine and dandy in practice, but in reality, that's not going to work because a person who's going to buy that is not going to give up their car to then, just get a car share. I know we're working towards a sustainability goal within Darebin and overall, being close to transport, public transport is great, but people are not going to give up their cars. Like, we've got to be realistic. We've got the council survey, doing it at midday is really ridiculous because people are at work. If you go to the property at 6, 7 p.m. at night, they're saying that there is within 200 metres of the site, a 46% vacancy rate. Yeah, that's not at night. It is not safe if you are returning home at 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night to then have to walk a certain distance
15 seconds left,
to
Jennifer.
access your property due to lack of parking. So that's going to have a huge impact as well from a safety concern for the neighbours. I think that's all. Thanks.
Thank you. And finally, Thomas Freeman.
Thanks, councillors. I just wanted to reiterate basically everything that my neighbours have said. Three of us in this building at 73, sorry, I live at 173 Flinders Street, right next to Jen. A whole bunch of us in this unit block are new home owners. A lot of us work from home quite a lot. There's one of us who is a psychologist who works from home. And that 3.3 metre distance is going to impact our lives pretty severely. We're not against development in our area. Like, we want people to come to our community. We want that to be there, but we feel this developer has squeezed the most that they can out of this block, not in order to, allow people to come and live in our community, but to squeeze the most profit out of it as they can. And I think that the council here should be defending the rights of the community and not the rights of developers to make profit. We don't have any north-facing windows in our block, so we're just going to lose all of our morning sunlight. I am one of the people that sleep in the back room. There's going to be windows that are looking into my bedroom, and the noise that's going to occur from the building right next to our bedroom windows is going to pretty severely impact our life. The other thing I'd like to mention is that we do have a common green space in that out the back. It's our only bit of green space. We actually often get out and organise a garden together. It's a really nice little community. Like, I've only been there for 6 months, but it's a really beautiful little community, and lots of people have been able to get to it thanks to the government's shared equity scheme. But that's just going to lose all of its light. And we've got shared vegetable gardens out the back there, and that's going to be a huge loss for our quality of life. So I just wanted to, kind of reiterate that that loss of light is going to impact our mental health, the community of our block, and just the kind of overall well-being of the neighbourhood. So we're not against this developing of housing here. We just think that 7 is excessive, and because they've put up 7, they've made it extremely close to our building, and we'd like for them to set it back further and reduce the amount of dwellings.
Thank you, Thomas. Is there anyone else in attendance who registered to make a submission, whose name I haven't called out? Nope. Okay. Thank you, everyone, very much for your submissions. Councillors, do we have a motion? Councillor Demetriadis.
Mayor, I'd like to propose an alternate motion.
Okay, do we have a seconder for this motion? Councillor Arturi. Would the mover like to speak?
Yes, thank you. Firstly, I wanted to thank the submitters for attending today and informing us of your thoughts. I'm raising this amendment in response to your feedback, and I'm proposing that the officer's recommendation be varied such that dwelling 7 be removed, as well as the built form associated with dwelling 7. This is due to the reasons that have been stated here tonight, that the current proposal increases traffic congestion and has insufficient on-site parking, given 14 car parking spaces are required on site according to the Darebin planning scheme. However, only 6 spaces have been proposed in this application. Furthermore, dwelling 7, which includes 2 bedrooms, is proposed to have no on-site parking. And whilst I acknowledge that there is a very serious need for more safe and secure homes in our community, from what we've heard from local residents here tonight, this application is an overdevelopment and impacts that neighbourhood character, the neighbourhood character of the area. There are also concerns about overlooking, bulk and overshadowing, especially since dwelling 7 is proposed to be situated at the top of the rear car park. So I hope all councillors can support this alternate motion, which from what we've heard from officers tonight, removing dwelling 7 will also comply with certain standards, such as the rear setback and overlooking. Thanks.
Thank you. Does the seconder wish to speak?
I'll reserve my right. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Is there anyone who wants to speak in opposition to this motion? Any other speakers? You don't get a chance. I'm afraid it's just councillors at this point. Sorry. Any other speakers? Councillor O'Brien?
Thank you, Mayor. I might just make, sorry, we'll stand for a short time. Just a couple of comments. I think this is an example of a planning question before us that is representative of some of the challenges we face in this situation. We know we desperately need more housing, but we know we also want to protect the character of our areas and the very reasons that people choose to live in Darebin. And so I think, some of the changes that are coming at us, so clause 55, I believe, being the one that's giving effect to a number of the decisions that officers have made and advised us on in relation to this. A while ago, some of the ones coming in relation to activity centres recently, and then some more recent ones about a week or so ago that are quite broad sweeping. We are in a very challenging situation as a council. All councils in Victoria are and will continue to be in more challenging circumstances as state rules change and evolve and dictate, I guess, the rules that we've got to play within. So I just wanted to make that point. It's not informing my decision as such, but it's just something that is problematic for us, so that we have to contend with constantly. It's something that we have to contend with within the communities that we're trying to represent. And the car parking thing is a vexed situation in general. So it's just something that's going to keep coming at us. And I hope we can make a good decision about this.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. I'm sorry, sir, it's just councillors at this point. No, you cannot speak at this point. No, you cannot speak at this time. You don't have respectfully, I'm sorry. Okay, does anyone else wish to speak to this motion? So I'm coming back to the seconder for your... No? Okay, so we'll go to the vote at this point. So all those in favour of the motion on the screen, please raise your hand, and that is carried unanimously. So thank you very much. Apologies, so you had your opportunity to speak earlier, and from that point on it's just a councillor discussion, so I'm sorry. Now, I just need to finish the statement. Excuse me, sir, if you could please be quiet. Thank you. The Planning Committee has decided to support the application with the inclusion of varied conditions. This decision is not final. An objector can appeal the decision and the applicant can appeal any conditions of VCAT. So the process of appeal is subject to timeframes detailed on the submission to be sent to the objector and the applicant. The Planning Committee has decided to support the application and issue a notice of decision to grant a planning permit subject to the conditions. So thank you. The only other item of business this evening is general planning information, which relates to the scheduled VCAT applications. So this is a standing item of this Planning Committee meeting. The report provides an overview of planning applications, decisions and VCAT matters over the last 3 months. Councillors, do I have a mover of the motion on the screen there?
Sorry, Mayor, can I ask a question?
Yes, you may.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you. So just in relation to this report, just making sure that it is the report I'm thinking of. So we've noticed that there's been a pattern in these reports that we've received in planning committee meetings since we've been in office, of planning officers reaching agreement with developers about planning permit conditions during pre-hearing conferences. And I'd just like to ask through you, Mayor, what it is that we've learned from these discussions and how they have informed the planning department's processes for reviewing planning permit applications.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor, through you, Mayor. The Statutory Planning Unit is focused on achieving good outcomes whilst also meeting administrative requirements. Historically, we've seen applicants having generally sought to avoid applications being brought to VCAT. And it's become increasingly common for applicants and officers to reach agreements on amended plans or permit conditions before VCAT hearings, and that's been embedded more in the process through changes to VCAT, with mediations occurring for almost all applications. So we regarding what processes might have changed or maybe are evolving, we're continuing to encourage applicants to attend pre-application meetings so we can discuss issues earlier in the process, in the piece, and also to attend to any issues at the further information stage earlier in the application when we have a chance to discuss through them before they go to public notice. So that allows us to get better resolve outcomes earlier, and it also provides for better efficiency of case management.
Thank you. Okay. So do we have a mover of the motion that the general planning information attached as Appendix A be noted? So Councillor Jelly, do we have a seconder? Councillor Salkos. Thank you. Just if you want to speak to that. Nope.
I'll just rise briefly to thank the officers for their work in bringing this report to us. I do actually find it very interesting, probably because I'm a nerd, just to see the pattern and also the outcome. So we've seen in some of the past reports the outcome of applications to VCAT for applications that we have approved in these chambers as the planning committee. So it's actually always a good read.
Thank you. Does the seconder wish to speak?
I'll reserve my right, thanks, Mayor.
Okay, I'm going to jump straight to the vote. All those who are supportive of this motion, please raise your hand. And that's carried unanimously. Okay, there are no confidential meetings this evening, so that brings us to the close of the meeting. So no other business, no other confidential items to consider. So I'd like to declare the Planning Committee meeting closed at 8:15 p.m. Thank you and good night, councillors, officers and members of the public. And I will now ask that the live stream please end. Thank you.